Welcome back, everybody. This week we are going into honoring hunger. So this is a really foundational principle of intuitive eating. We're going to really dive into how do we honor our hunger. It's always this week and next week and the following week that people, not weeks, you know what I mean, videos, that people begin to have so much growth and so many ahas. So I'm really excited for you guys to get into this. This was a really pivotal step for me for sure when it comes to my own intuitive eating journey. And so we're breaking up honoring hunger and fullness into two completely separate modules. So in this module, it's all about honoring our hunger. In the next module, we'll get into honoring fullness. So you may have some fullness questions come up here. I encourage you just to pause on those and wait until the next module. It's all coming. And this is what I mean when I say the honoring fullness module will help you with the honoring hunger module. So again, don't feel like you have to wait until you've mastered honoring hunger. Truly, we never master these things. We always just practice them. We get to know ourselves better and better and better and better. So let's get into this. When we say honoring hunger, we are talking a lot about letting go of so many food rules that tell us, again, how much we should eat and when we should eat. I want you guys to get curious. Have you ever used time, like schedule, to tell you when you can and cannot eat? I used to always eat on a schedule. It was breakfast at this time, lunch at this time, snack at this time, then dinner, and then God forbid you eat after dinner. How many of us have had the rule of not eating after dinner? I know I have. And it's like, well, if you're hungry, we have to eat. And so all these rules are just very arbitrary, and they all take us outside of our bodies. This work is about reconnecting with our bodies. Our hunger and our fullness cues are so innate within us. It's just that diet culture has totally come in and put all these layers so we can no longer access them. Diet culture has come in to make us think that we can't trust our bodies when actually we totally can. Eating food is as natural as going to the bathroom, believe it or not. But I know it doesn't feel that way. But we'll get to start embarking on a journey back home to easily honoring your hunger and fullness, beginning with this video. And so get curious. Like, have you had rules around when you can eat? Have you felt hunger and pushed past it? How about the don't spoil your dinner so that then you don't eat and then you're ravenous come dinner time? We're going to talk about why these things are harmful, right? And so many diets teach us to ignore hunger, right? To ignore our hunger cues, to push past our hunger. To only eat if we're feeling ravenous, like ravenously hungry, like so hungry. And so today we want to begin the practice of noticing what does our hunger feel like, and begin to practice the importance of actually honoring our hunger when we feel it. Because here's the thing, when we don't honor our hunger, we end up getting to this place called primal hunger, that ravenous place, which is where basically our body's like, I need food now, right? Like now. And that's not a wonderful place to be because it's physically painful. It doesn't feel good, and we're hangry. And that's often also the time where we're going to likely then eat past the point of fullness because we're trying to eat so much to satisfy that craving. And that then we end up feeling overly full. And then that's not a fun experience either. And so we want to begin to work on trusting when we're feeling physically hungry that, okay, our bodies are simply telling us, hey girl, eat. It's as simple as that when you really break it down. It's like if we're feeling physical hunger, then our bodies must be telling us to eat. But we also are going to talk about what physical hunger might feel like, because some things that I say might surprise you. All right? And if you think about, I've got cravings and I'm not actually hungry, we're going to get into all of that, I promise. Just allow yourself to be right here, right now. Okay? So let's first start off with the biological feelings of hunger and fullness. And then later on, we'll get to really go into what do these cravings mean, how to differentiate between biological hunger and other forms of hunger. But today, again, we're just starting with biological hunger cues. And so one of the handouts in your module is called the Hunger and Fullness Scale. And so you can go ahead and you can pull that up to follow along. And we're going to focus today again on the bottom half, the hunger part of the Hunger and Fullness Scale. And so let's look at what these different levels of hunger are. So number 5 is when we're right in the middle. And this is where you're just feeling neutral, okay? You're neither hungry nor full. This is where you're probably not even thinking about food at all. When I think about 5, this is where I like to be personally. If I'm going to go do, for instance, some movement, especially more vigorous movement, like an actual like workout, right? Like I want to be at 5, neutral, personally. That's where I like to be, right? So that's another way to conceptualize it. But you're just not even thinking about food. You're just totally neutral. All right. Number 4, as we move a step down, is just like very subtle hunger. It's just slightly empty. Probably another good place where you're like, yeah, like it would feel good to move your body vigorously when you're at a 4, because it's just very, very subtle. I'm gonna sneeze. I keep sneezing today. Excuse me. My husband makes fun of me for having very loud sneezes. What can I say? But I think sneezing feels so good, so it's whatever. All right, guys. Anyways, so 4 is just a subtle hunger, like slightly empty, but you still feel pretty neutral. All right. It's not pleasant. It's not unpleasant. Okay. This often is one that takes a lot of time to be able to feel this space, this stage of hunger. Now I can feel it in my body, and I know, oh, this is when I like to have a snack. I'm going to tell you more as we go along how to differentiate how you learn these. But for now, we're just going to describe them. Okay. Number 3 is, okay, you're hungry. You're ready to eat, but there's no urgency here. That's important. It's going to make more sense as we go. There's no urgency. It's like a polite hunger. It feels pleasant. The way I like to think about number 3 is you're hungry and you're excited to have like a good charcuterie board or like a nice appetizer. Like it's maybe like 2, what I'll describe next, is like that meal hunger. 3 is like you're hungry and maybe it's like, okay, I'm gonna have a good snack right now. I'm gonna make some nachos or like whatever. And you're excited to eat. It's gonna feel good. It's gonna taste good. Great, right? That's a pleasant feeling. Number 2 is similar, but again, it's just a little bit more hungry. So this is again where you're like, no, I don't just want charcuterie. I don't just want some nachos. I want a meal. I want to have pasta or a sandwich with a side and, like maybe goldfish crackers. This is what I eat. It's an apple or whatever. You're like, I want a whole meal. I want eggs and toast and bacon. I want a cheeseburger and french. Like, you want a meal, right? Number 2 is like, okay, I want a meal. But again, there's no urgency here. There's no like, I need food now. It's like, oh, I'm hungry. Cool, I'm going to go eat. So I often think about that at a restaurant. If you go to a restaurant at a 2, you're like, oh, I'm pumped because I'm hungry and it has such good food. It's going to feel so good and taste so good. Versus a number 1, you're ravenous and you're irritable. You are anxious to eat. This no longer feels pleasant. Okay? So this is the space where you're like at the restaurant and you're just like, where's the bread basket? I need food right now. Like, come on. You don't even want to wait for your food, right? It's like, I need food right now. It's uncomfortable. It's unpleasant. That's a 1. Okay. Number 0 is even below that. And it's like this real, it's just even more intense. All right. It's even more intense than 1. It often can include that actual physical pain in your stomach. Have you felt that before? I hope you haven't, but I have for sure. Sometimes this happens to me when I just get carried away with things. When I'm shopping, it happens when I'm shopping. That's when it'll happen for me. To have a big day of errands and shopping and I'm not paying attention. That's most likely when I personally experience 0. And it sucks because it is, again, physically painful. And so again, we want to avoid 0 and 1, not because it's like, oh, these are the rules. You must avoid 0 and 1. You're bad if it's 0 and 1. No, it's just like, it doesn't feel good. A lot of intuitive eating, guys, is simply about like having a really satisfactory feeling in our bodies, like feeling well, feeling good in our bodies. It doesn't feel good to be painfully hungry. It's that simple, right? It just doesn't feel good. It's not pleasant. And so we want to avoid it. Also, again, what I said earlier, when we're at that 1 and that 1 and 0, that's when we're setting ourselves up to eat past the point of fullness. Because of course we're just going to shovel food. That's a biological response to primal hunger. Okay, simple as that. So in order to honor our fullness, we have to be able to honor our hunger first, which is why we start here. Also, when you're at 1 and 0, you're not able to be like, what food sounds good? What's going to satisfy my craving? What's going to like feel good in my body? You don't have time to ask those really wonderful questions. It's just like, I need food, and you're raiding the pantry. I used to come home from work and raid my pantry. And I would wonder, why do I always do this? It's because I was never eating enough during the day. So of course, when I got home from work, I was going crazy in my pantry. I was not honoring my hunger throughout my work day. Or maybe for you, it's after dinner or like at nighttime, right? And you're like, why do I always go crazy at nighttime? Because we're not eating enough during the day. So do you see how we have to be able to learn how to honor our hunger throughout the entire day? It's so key. So if you're like, okay, cool, I can now make sense of what these numbers are. How do I actually learn them? We learn them from trial and error. And this is where I say you can't fail intuitive eating because we're always learning and growing. You learn your 1 and 0 by experiencing a 1 and 0. And then that helps you learn what your 2 feels like. And that helps you learn what your 3 feels like, right? So you learn by trial and error, by trying things out. For instance, you might be like, and this is a real example, how I learned my number 4, which is that real more, like I would say, at the more advanced one that you'll learn over time. So be gentle with yourself. I learned my number 4 by having the thought come in my head of, I want a snack. And I would stop and I'd be like, am I hungry? Do I think I want a snack? And I'd be like, no, I don't think I am. And so I wouldn't have a snack. And then I noticed, like a half an hour later, I was already at the 3, needing like a big snack. I was like, oh, baby, like, whoa. And so that's how I learned, okay, when that voice pops up, and then found out over time, I can even feel that sensation more. But even just that voice in my head was actually a hunger cue that, hey, have a little snack right now. And that's when I'll like get a bowl of goldfish out and have some goldfish crackers, right? Or take a bite of an apple, or whatever it is. And so that's how we learn these. So again, you can't fail. We're always just learning more and more and more about our hunger as we go about our daily lives. And it's amazing what happens when we actually are honoring our hunger. Because again, that empowers us to actually honor our fullness. When we're consistently honoring our hunger, we're not going to binge. We're like those things begin to go away because we're consistently nourishing ourselves. You also end up having more energy. I've had so many clients be like, wow, I just feel so much better now that I'm eating more. Because we are all, so many of us are just like chronically undernourished and not eating enough, not getting enough calories. And once we do start to eat more, we're just like, wow, I have so much more energy. A funny story on this is my husband, who's never died a day in his life, has always had like a really great relationship with food. It's just a total intuitive eater. He packed the same lunch for 7 years that he was at his first company, his first job. It was like a pretty small lunch. I was always like, really, that's all you eat? And he's like very active. He's a runner. I was like, that just doesn't make sense to me that like that's all you eat all day. But that's just what he was used to. So he's like, no, yeah, it's fine. Until he went to his new job, because he started a couple of years ago, and they do catered lunches. And so he's been having like real like bigger lunches because there are these catered like restaurant food, right? And he was like, oh my God, I have so much more energy. I no longer have my 2-3 p.m. dip. And the only thing that changed was that he was eating more for lunch. Like he was having more fuel. And so it's really cool to see what happens when we actually start to honor our hunger and eat more food. It's a game changer, you guys. And so what we want to begin to do and focus on, your big action for this is to begin to get curious about how hungry you are. And when you feel hunger, to actually then eat. And so let's talk about also, like, and this is where you are the expert on you. No one knows how you feel in your body except for you. So let's talk about like what different hunger cues can be. Sometimes, of course, we do feel it in our bellies. You're probably going to feel like a 2, 3, 0, and 1 in your belly, but not always. Everyone's different. And so sometimes a hunger cue, again, I said, sometimes just thinking about food is a hunger cue, which makes sense. If our brain's thinking about food, it makes sense that, oh, maybe I'm hungry. Our bodies are smart. Again, like I know, like if I'm thinking I want a snack, it's probably because I just need a snack. It can be that simple, you guys. Give it a whirl and see. Give it a whirl and see for yourself, right? There's no failing. We're just learning. Trial and error here. So thinking about food can be a hunger cue. Being lightheaded or having a headache. Maybe that's a hunger cue for you. Maybe being moody, angry, irritable is a hunger cue. Maybe being tired is a hunger cue for you. So get curious, right? Get curious of what are your hunger cues. And again, when you notice them, oh, okay, I'm going to eat now. Now, if you've been dieting for a long, long time and suppressing your hunger cues for a long time, it will simply take more time for your hunger cues to come back, and that's totally okay. If you feel like that's you, that's where I would love for you to ask in the Facebook group, in our coaching calls, and I'm happy to support you in your unique situation more directly, okay? But it just takes more time. But we will all get our hunger cues back, I promise you. We can totally, totally, totally do it. I also want to say and stress that this is, again, not the hunger and fullness diet. You're going to hear me say that over and over again. The goal of intuitive eating is to just feel as good as possible in our bodies. And so, yeah, it feels good to eat, and food is more tasty and satisfying when we eat when we're hungry. But you are allowed to eat when you're not hungry. You are allowed to eat when you're at that 5. Absolutely. You're allowed to eat when you're not hungry. You are allowed to say, I want some ice cream, just because you want some ice cream. Okay, you are allowed to do that. And we'll talk more in the Honoring Fullness module about why it's so important to have that unconditional permission to eat. But for now, we are just really focusing on our hunger, but know that you are allowed to eat even when you are not hungry. Okay, absolutely. So what I would love for you guys to do this week is begin to get really curious about your hunger cues. I have a worksheet that you can use, but you don't have to. It's called the Hunger and Fullness Satiety Journal, and you'll just focus on the hunger part of it this time. But what you can do is you can print that out and have it. You can just kind of mark down, if you like more tangible things, you can mark down before you eat where you think you're at in terms of your hunger. If you don't use that, it's totally fine. You might find it's really helpful. You might find that it's not helpful. So trust yourself on that, okay? Any handout I give you is for you to choose to use or not, depending on how it helps or doesn't help you, okay? Again, you're the expert on you. Trust that you know what's best for you. So it's just a way to help you get curious, but you don't have to use that. What I do want you to do, though, for your action step is to, anytime before you eat, check in and get curious and just say, okay, where are I thinking I'm at right now? No judgment. I think I'm at a 4. I think I'm at a 3. I think I'm at a 2. I think I'm at a 1. Just notice that. Okay, just notice that. Also, of course, action step is when you notice you're hungry, you think you're hungry, eat. Eat. And that just might mean that you have to have more snacks available to you for you. Right, so maybe you have more snacks at your desk at work. You carry bars in your pocket, so you have like a little bar that you can easily have if you notice, oh, I'm hungry right now, to help avoid getting down to that 1 and 0 place when we're like totally crazy and ravenous. Okay. The other piece that's really helpful here is to set an alarm on your phone for 3 odd times during the day. 3 times that you typically aren't hungry or like not eating or don't think about food. Maybe it's like, I don't know, 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. or maybe it's like 2 or 3 or maybe it's 1 or maybe it's at whatever those times are for you. And maybe you will be hungry. Cool. Just like non-traditional meal times is what I mean, which is different for everybody. Maybe you eat breakfast at 9 a.m. Totally cool. So whatever those times are for you. And the alarm is simply to check in. Just check in with yourself. And what that means is I just want you to notice, hey, how are you feeling? How are you feeling in your body? Just kind of like do a little scan. If you're to get curious about your hunger, where are you at? Is it a 5? Is it a 4? Is it a 6, 7, 8? I don't know. Like, just get curious about where you're at in your hunger. Okay, we're going to go to the up part of the scale, the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, next video. Just get curious. And then just get curious how you're feeling in general, right? Build this skill, build this practice of saying, hey, self, how are you feeling? How are you feeling right now? Good, bad, neutral? That simple, okay? And of course, keep up that mindfulness practice. But this is all for this week. It's only a 20-minute video, much easier than last time's, right? But it's really good stuff. So begin to practice it. Bring all of your questions to me in the Facebook group and our coaching calls, all right? I'm excited for you guys to get to dive into this. Again, you're going to keep practicing and honing the skill of honoring your hunger from here on out the rest of your life. So welcome to the wonderful world of being in tune with our bodies and honoring our hunger.